here. But yeah, that's the whole pick situation is why I didn't just want to do a picks video last night, because I knew I'd take forever projecting.
Just give us the picks. Give me picks.
No. All right. Thank you for joining us this morning. Let me go ahead and tweet this out. But do you want to bring up what you just brought up here? Because we got to do more homework.
Sure. Well, there's always more homework to do, and I know people just want the picks. We're already seconds in. Give me the damn picks. Well, you know that Cruz and I aren't just going to. We'll eventually give you the damn picks, but we are research guys. We believe in doing the homework and the process and systems, and not just giving out picks. So, with that being said, my thought was, we've kind of been through this situation before where all of a sudden teams have gone from a high downforce to a low downforce with limited practice time out of the blue. All of a sudden, I was reading an article today, and Eric Jones was talking about, we've already done this before. Some of these guys don't know what they're doing, but we've been through this. In 2015, NASCAR suddenly decided, you know what? We're going to run a low downforce package at Kentucky. We're going to run a low downforce package at Darlington. Just out of the blue, no testing at those tracks, right? Kyle Busch is complaining, well, we didn't test at this track. This is a terrible. Well, they didn't test at Kentucky. They didn't test at Darlington. So what we can do right now, or you can do out there, is look at that 2015 Kentucky race in the summer and the September race. And they were hits. Everyone loved those races, which I think everyone's going to love today. And that led to 2016 being low downforce, 17, 18 being low downforce. Let's quickly look at those races before we get to the picks. So we'll start with Kentucky, and I've got you want to do it from racing perspective or from fantasy points perspective?
Let's do fantasy points perspective. If we're at least going to bore people with that, we need to keep it relative.
Fantasy. Yeah, people want fast laps. Well, they want fast laps, and they want to know who's not going to wreck. Does that seem like an accurate description of the needs of the viewers? I know you guys, just bear with us. You want the picks, but I think this is useful. So in terms of fantasy points, the most points scored, man, this is my old format. This is an old spreadsheet because this is 2015.
All right. Back to the fan vice days, no?
No, this is before anything. This is Roto Grinders.
Oof. Big oof.
Yeah, hold on. I've got to format it in a way to
make sense.
Yeah, it's so old. I'm trying, guys. Bear with me. I wasn't really. All right, so the most points was scored by Kyle Busch with 124 points, 55 fast lap points, or 27.5 fast lap points, 40.75 laps led points. And then second best, now this was a long time ago when this guy was at his prime, Brad Keselowski. He finishes sixth, but he scored 55 hog points and 100 points total. So you had Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski both topping 100 and 124 points. In a low downforce package, all of a sudden, you have two guys separate and run away. I mean, it doesn't say everything, right? But for the people out there thinking, I'm just going to take one hog. Now, obviously, you run more laps at Kentucky. But if you're thinking that you're probably going to get away with just taking one hog and stacking guys in the back because it's going to be chaos, that's not what I'm seeing here from Kentucky, which the cars were loose and they managed to find a way not to wreck those cars at Kentucky. How many cars wrecked in that Kentucky race? I know, but and also if you go back, 2015 was before they repaved Kentucky as well. Mm-hmm. They had not repaved it. They had not reformatted it. It was still an old, worn-out racetrack that was tough on tires, and there wasn't any wrecks. 2 cars crashed. That can't be right. That is right. They must have figured it out. That's just one small sample size. Also looking at that in terms of fantasy point-wise, let's see, was there any big place differential guys? Carl Edwards got 16 place differential points. Matt Kenseth got 11. Trevor Bayne, 15. But Carl Edwards this might have been 5. This was 5 player salaries too. Mm-hmm. This might have been the second NASCAR event ever for DraftKings. I believe it was. All right. Let's look at Darlington real quick, because I know people don't want to belabor this point, but if they want to, they can go through Racing Reference or in the Patreon spreadsheet and look at these previous races in a Wayback Machine and look and see who ran well. But I guess let me just give you average running position for that Kentucky real quick. So Kyle Busch, average running position, a first. That's pretty dominant. Kozlowski, 5th, second most points. Edwards, 6th, third most points. Logano, average running position of 3rd, 4th most points. Hamlin, Kenseth, Harvick, Kurt Busch. It's all the who's who at Kentucky right there. Let's go to Darlington. Darlington might be a better reference point with a little bit also worn out racetrack, running up near the wall, which I expect him to do. If I were in this Fontana race, I would get up on the wall. If you're lacking rear side downforce, you need to be on the wall, not close to the wall, on it. Yeah. And then if you lose it and it jumps on you, you're not going to suffer as much damage. And he's kind of saw that in second practice with guys mainly running the top. Not the wall, but they were running the top. All right. Darlington, Brad Keselowski again. Oh, boy. I think you like Keselowski, don't you? Today? You like it, PK? Are you listening to me?
No, yeah. I'm tweeting everything out.
Yeah. Brad Keselowski, most points with 70 hog points, 100 points total, finishes second. Carl Edwards, again, 75. And Carl Edwards was mentioned in that article by Eric Jones. And we talked about this yesterday. When they switched to high downforce, Carl Edwards said, peace, see you later. Denny Hamlin, 3rd best. That's also an artifact of him just being really good at Darlington. Harvick, Kurt Busch, Logano, Earnhardt Jr., a guy that likes to get up on the wall. Kyle Larson had a good performance. This was just his second season. Newman, Kyle Busch. That's your top 10 in scoring. Those are all, I mean, if I go through those names of drivers, they stick out to me as guys that are drivers. They are guys that will finish in any equipment, that like to have loose race cars. So I think that was the same thing for Kentucky. Here we go. Fast forward to Fontana. My first question to you is, place difference with all that stuff aside, do you just want to race drivers that are wheelmen?
Yeah, I want to race drivers that I know are going to actually drive well. I'm still stupid high on Larson. I ended up with a lot of Denny Hamlin. I haven't finished all my lines, but once the show ended last night, I ran some stuff and I ended up with Denny Hamlin popping up quite a lot for me. Same thing with Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott. And I probably wouldn't have got to those. And I'll probably even expand that to people like Alex Bowman after this in Truex. But I probably wouldn't have got there if I would have just gone with like the first impression of, okay, well, let's grab 4 guys from the back or 5 guys from the back, something like that. So I am ended up with quite a bit of Hamlin, Larson, and Kyle Busch and Truex right now.
Yeah, I like them all. I obviously like Larson. I like Busch a lot. Hamlin, don't worry about it. If anything, you might want to be excited about his lap by lap data. Yeah, they're slow, but that also tells me he knows what he's doing. He's smart. He's consistent. He's not doing anything stupid. Obviously, he didn't wreck. He didn't push it. There was nothing to learn yesterday other than, yes, what they already knew, which these cars lack rear side downforce or side force, and don't push it. And in the race, you're probably going to want to get on the wall. And in practice, you don't want to be on the wall. There would be no point in that whatsoever. You just want to run up near the top, get a feel for that groove, maybe test out some other lines. I wouldn't even do that. We saw Kyle Busch move around a little bit, and he nearly wrecked. So I think just going into yesterday's practice and playing it safe and not really worrying about the numbers, just getting familiar with the bumps, kind of like how you talked about how Custer now is probably more familiar with all the bumps than anybody in the field. I also want to add Hemrick to that list too, because Hemrick did run the wall a lot yesterday.
Yes.
I think Hemrick can have a really good day today. Probably won't work in fantasy. It's one of those classic examples of, wow, that guy had a really good performance, but he's irrelevant in fantasy because of where he's starting. If he is relevant in fantasy, then I'm screwed.
Right.
What about you? I'm not playing him.
Yeah, I'm not playing Hemrick either. I do want to add, because people are worried about Kyle going to the rear. I think there's going to be so many questions that it doesn't bother me if anybody goes to the rear, to be honest. If I like him to start off, this is a race that you're going to be able to pass with. That doesn't bother me at all. I don't see him going.
Yeah, people were worried about Kurt Busch for about 2 seconds. Has anyone even mentioned that? Remember, he still has to do a pass through, but you're completely fine with that. Everyone's like, oh, this is going to be fine. There's going to be plenty of cautions. Denny Hamlin says, hey, I hope you guys have a bunch of packages ready for the TV side because there's going to be a lot of wrecks. So we've completely already, erased our worries about Kurt Busch. So if you were so easy to just let that go, then what are you worried about Kyle Busch going to the back? I'm not, especially when at least half the field is going to be pedaling it and just kind of taking it easy and playing it soft. So if he wants to get up front, he'll get up there. That's the question: is does he really want to push it? Does he need to be out front? I think he probably does. I think he probably is going. He only knows how to be aggressive, and in this first race in this package, he wants to be the guy.
Yeah, and let me look at my current ownership. So I have 7 lines made right now. I got Wallace in 5. I got Harvick in 4. I got Kurt Busch in 3. I got Eric Almirola in 2. That's where I'm at right now, because we did, and I guess we haven't talked about it yet so far, but the guys that I'm really honing in on are the guys that I think are going to be overlooked, from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. to Corey LaJoie. That's 17th to 25th. A lot of my ownership is trying to go to people like Christopher Bell, people like Michael McDowell. I like Buescher. I don't hate LaJoie. Stenhouse is fine with me. Like I love this whole range.
Yeah, if we want wheelmen, then there's a couple in that range, and they're going to go low owned, and they're volatile, and there's a lot of risk, which will further suppress their ownership. Plus, people are just going to play the guys in the back. It's an easy decision. It's easy to jam all those guys into an optimizer, and the optimizer, whether you want it or not, is going, or the mass entry tools, Fantasy Cruncher is going to go, and I'm sure someone will tweet this out, but Fantasy Cruncher is just going to load up on those guys. And you'll have to self-correct for that and dial them down, because it's just going to want to build so many different variations of those guys in the back with either one guy in the front or 2 guys in the front. That's just the way those algorithms are going to be programmed, based on points and the price per dollar. And that's going to lead to those guys in the middle getting overlooked. I like those guys. I kind of like going with 3 guys from the front, which I think is going to be the and there's 2 reasons. One, that's going to get lower ownership, and I don't really care about the ownership too much. But I would, want to play drivers that I think are going to run well, and I've put the work in, and I think, like, hey, this guy's going to run well. If he wrecks, then tough luck, Why not play Kyle Larson? Why not play Kyle Busch? Why not play Martin Truex Jr.? And if the argument is simply, well, this guy is starting 35th, okay, well, that's it. That's your only argument, is that this guy can score more fantasy points or more place differential points. What about that driver tells you that he's going to score a bunch of points? This guy's starting 35th. Can't you hear me? Yeah, I understand he's starting 35th, but why do you like that driver? I just told you, because he's starting 35th. Like, that's the kind of DFS Twitter content you're probably getting out there. And I really don't want to just play guys like it's Daytona. So I could be wrong, and I don't fault anyone for doing that. But for me, I'm going to play the guys who should run well in this race. And that's going to be the Kyle Larsons. That's going to be the Kyle Busches. It's going to be Martin Truex Jr. Hamlin probably too.
2 guys. I'm scared about Byron. I do think Byron struggles, because he really hasn't. Sure, he's driven the Xfinity car, but he's never really driven a car with this low amount of downforce. The same thing can be said about Alex Bowman, but I'm forcing Alex Bowman into lines. He's
a dirt tracker, though, right? His Bowman's
he just started.
Oh, he did? I thought he'd been doing it for a while, but he has been. At least he has been doing it for 2-3 seasons.
Yeah, but the main point is, like, when you look at the salaries, I think everybody's going to hop on Harvick. He's 9,200. Kurt Busch is 8,800. Alex Bowman is literally 9,000 in the middle of these 2 guys. I think that lowers his ownership tremendously, because why would you play Alex Bowman when you could just shove in both Harvick and Kurt Busch together?
Yeah, he'll be virtually unknown.
Chastain is right by him in the price range. And so, this whole week a lot of people entered like, hey, Alex Bowman clearly won the last race here. He can at least perform top 6 speeds. And I haven't seen anybody talking about Bowman since qualifying happened.
Yeah, that is a pretty sharp angle. And if we talk about Bowman's best race, is Chicago, worn out track. Fontana, a worn out track. He won at Richmond last year, another worn up, chew up the tires type of track. The only thing that has changed is there's less downforce, of which Well, how do you prepare for that? Well, you get in the simulator. Well, guess who is kind of the king of simulator time? Who was the simulator driver for Hendrick? It's Alex Bowman. I think I like that play a lot as well. And I know he doesn't have a lot of dirt experience, but getting some recently, I think, is going to be important because you may not search around the track a lot in this race, but I think some of that skill is going to play out pretty well here at Fontana. And then on top of that, segueing, I know you are worried about Tyler Reddick wrecking, but Tyler Reddick is going to be on the wall. Do we agree there?
We do.
Now, if he is on the wall with a composite body, he has a chance of being okay kissing the wall here and there. I mean, this could be a Homestead redux. And even if Tyler Reddick doesn't win, he has the potential for top 5. And he also has the potential to accumulate fast lap points on a long run. And he's starting close to the front. He's going to go under their own as well. I mean, the same thing you can say about Bowman, you can say that for Tyler Reddick as well. And I mean, if we're looking at it through the lens of talent and driving a loose race car and pushing it, he's in that conversation. You wouldn't want to play him in a cash game. And we're not talking about cash anyway, but this is a volatile GPP play that I like. Riskier than Bowman, but I think in that same neighborhood. Look comfortable in practice. Look confident in practice. And if we're talking about get up on the wall to get that extra side force, there's Larson, and then for my money, there's Reddick will be most apt to do that.
Yeah, and there's a part of me that wants to go like a Larson, Bowman, almost like if you want to call it a Hendrick stack, because I like Elliott as well. Elliott falls into that too.
I probably won't go to Elliott. I've dialed Elliott down, but he's there. He is there. Now, if Kyle Busch does go to the back, because I like him leading early.
Yeah.
If he goes to the back, I would probably maybe go up on Hamlin. Hamlin's going to start on the outside. He probably is the one that's going to take the lead in this race. Probably shouldn't rule out Ryan Blaney. But Larson seems like he's going to slide into almost every lineup for people. I think there's enough salary freedom and that he's got enough place differential that's going to lure people in. He has plenty of hog point potential. He is an 11 race winner from last season. And you stack 5 guys in the back, he's still probably going to. And if you jam 1 in, it's going to be Larson. If you stack 4 guys ish in the back and you play 2 from the front, Larson's going to be one of those guys. I don't know if he's going to be the highest owned driver. I don't have one of those computer algorithm things, but I would imagine it's going to be close.
I think
I don't want to fade him either.
I think he's top 4. I think everybody plays, not everybody, but I think a majority of lineups are like a 4-2 build, where I really like 3-3s here.
ACS has the rec rate question, which we talked about last night. We went over this, and I just kind of what I did was I just asked you, we went through each driver who was going to wreck. Now, whether you pick the driver or not, whether they wreck or not, whether that's correct, at the end, the rate was about 33%. You had about 1/3 wrecking out, which I think we could extrapolate and say that for each driver, there's probably about a 1/3 chance of each of these guys wrecking, give or take. And that might be a little conservative. Some of these guys may have 40, 50% chance wreck rates. And so, yeah, it sounds like a plate race. Sounds like probably should stack guys in the back. Unless, of course, the guy that doesn't wreck is a good driver. And if a good driver doesn't wreck, that good driver is going to lead laps. And then the other part of that is, well, if the guys in the back wreck, then they don't work either. So that's the argument against, hey, who cares if they're good? Well, I care if they're good because if you're good, you don't wreck. And I think this is, I'm talking about that Kentucky and Darlington race, if you want to go back to them. Those were good drivers that finished. Those are good drivers that not only finished, but finished inside the top 10. And when the dust settles today, I don't believe it's going to be random. Like at Daytona, like we have to reset our brains because we're going from Wreckfest to Wreckfest possibly. But last week's Wreckfest is arbitrary. It's random wrecks. There will be wrecks, but the wrecks are more than likely going to be unskilled drivers that don't know where the edge is. So that's my take. So I think that playing skilled drivers is probably a better move.
Yeah, I do agree. I know ACS asked, at least in the Discord last night, how our lineup strat or how building lineups are. We both like Daytona's a wreck fest. We're projecting this to have quite a few cautions, but that answers his question from Discord last night, saying like how this is different. I just want to point that out because he did ask that.
Hog points are the erroneously labeled dominator laps. So I say hog because I hate the world. Fast laps and laps led. Okay, sorry. Just had to answer that.
Let's see. We both do like Custer.
Yeah, I've liked Custer all week. All week I've been on Custer. And I'm actually kind of sucks now because he won yesterday. So now the public's going to be on him. I wish the public was on him because they've been reading my content all week. That's not the case. But I'm almost worried that maybe, and you don't agree here, but and you made a really good point about him being familiar now with the bumps. That's a lot of laps. Most of these guys got 10 laps yesterday. He got a ton of experience, ton of restart experience too, which I think is going to be very valuable. But my one little part of concern is that, well, two now that I think about it. A, he's a little too confident. B, how drunk did he get last night? Hopefully he didn't get drunk last night. Hopefully he was responsible. But, man, it's been a while since Custer visited Victory Lane, and I couldn't blame him if he had, 3 or 4 beers. And then we know that 3 or 4 beers turns into, 5 or 6
pack.
beers.
But, he drank.
Look at Custer's pre-race interviees. Let's see what kind of shape he's in.
Right. Well, he drank to not feel the pain when, the inevitable big one happens today as well.
There were a lot of Xfinity drivers drinking yesterday to numb some of the actual physical pain.
Yeah.
Brandon Jones probably got hammered. I know Gregson went to the infield, and he didn't even wreck.
Yeah. That was a lot. I mean, God, they were in the cars for so long, not doing anything.
Get ready for it today, folks. It's 10:30 a.m. We are not going to get out of here anytime soon.
No, I got a...
No, I mean, the show might end, but the race is going to go on and on.
I got a iRacing League race tonight at 7 Eastern, and I don't know if the race is still going to be on at that time. There's no way I see the end of the damn race.
We already talked about this. It's going to take 20 minutes to get some of those cars out with the haulers the way that they're spinning out.
Yeah. I don't like
Cindric for me.
Yeah, I don't like Cindric.
Look, Cindric qualified on the front because everyone went Leroy Jenkins in qualifying, and everybody just decided to send it, and they all spun out. And so Cindric got the pole because he was a coward. And good luck being a coward today. Cowards are not going to do well.
No.
Cowards get safe finishes, but if you want to win this race, it's going to be the bravest. It's going to be the boldest. That some of them are going to wreck out, but some of them are absolutely going to look like amazing drivers today. And we're going to remember what NASCAR used to be, and they're going to put on a show.
Yeah. Despite the fact we're going to have a lot of wrecks, I do think the rate, like you're going to see these guys wheeling these cars around. It's going to be fantastic.
This is what we want. We want wrecks. Like the wrecks are not examples of like bad product. It's the example of we're putting it in the driver's hands, and the drivers are deciding to push it to the limit. That's what we want. So it's good. It's a good thing. Got to make sure we realize that. Like the wrecks yesterday, they were fine.
Yeah.
It was aggressive driving. Whatever, it's fine by me.
Yeah. And yet again, related to anybody going to the rear, it does not change anything for me at all.
It could be the whole damn field goes to the rear by the end of this race. All the little changes that they're probably going to have to make. You have to look online and follow and see. Is there anyone that it hurts some of these hogs in the front, guys that we think might get fast laps and laps led a little bit, but with so many cautions and so many restarts, if you are a good driver that can lead laps, then you're going to be fine. Going to the rear in this race is not going to matter. I would not be surprised to see NASCAR create a competition caution in the next hour. What do you think the chances of that happening?
No, there's no way. They don't think that far ahead, Pearce. They've shown that hundreds of times because they're like, oh,
If you
tire
were
failures are
running,
not. We haven't even had a long run with these tires. We don't know what they do with under severe stress. 30, 25 laps into a run at places like this.
But if you were the executive in charge, would you say, "Hey, we're going to do a competition caution on lap 20"?
Nah, there's no way they do that because they're like, we gave you guys practice.
I'm asking you, would you do that?
Oh, hell yeah! I mean, I would have given them real practice, but no.
Yeah, I know, but they can't do that. But they could still say, "Hey,
Yeah.
that was pretty hairy yesterday, and we're having let's and kind of send a message to the drivers. We're going to do a competition caution lap 20. Let's all take it easy, okay?" Or maybe that's not what they want to do. Maybe it's the opposite of, like, we're not going to take it easy on them. We want you to wreck 15 times in the first 10 laps.
We need restarts, guys. So we're not gonna give you a competition caution. You're gonna give us enough. But I can't. We talked about we had a 3-hour or 2-hour conversation last night related to just the pain in the ass this race is going to be. In terms of, guys don't even have to wreck to put laps down. You just blow all 4 of your tires and you're stuck. You can't get to pit road.
But there could be wave arounds like crazy, so there will be plenty of wave rounds because the leaders are almost always going to pit to take tires, which is going to open up for plenty of wave rounds and lucky dogs, and with plenty of cautions that you spin out. Like Brandon Brown yesterday, all of a sudden his race is over and now he's back in 8th place. It's a zombie race. They just kept coming back from the dead, and I imagine today's going to be a zombie race, which is fun. It's exciting that your lineups may not ever be dead unless your guy suffers something cataclysmic, like a Ross Chastain type of incident. I know it sounds like just play guys in the back, though, doesn't it? The more we talk about this stuff, but I'm still going to be contrarian and try to play drivers I like.
Yeah, and look, if I lose money doing that, I can't even be mad. This is a race where I just want to attack. I want to try and get the lap leaders.
And if you think, we all agree there'll be wrecks. Now, what kind of wrecks? Do we believe that they're going to be random, or do we think it's going to be drivers with less skill? I think it's going to be less skill. So then pick skilled drivers because they're not going to wreck. If they don't wreck, they finish inside the top 10. Now, you could make an argument that these guys in the back are skilled, but you could also make an argument that Ross Chastain clearly isn't skilled. Now, I know you're going to say, well, it was a mechanical failure, but Ross Chastain wrecks cars. Who we fooling there?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to play skilled drivers.
Yeah, I am too. I know Wes brought up, not Kurt Busch. I meant the did he get deleted? Where's the oh, that was K. Talking about Keselowski. He pops up for me because I think he's underpriced. And I truly believe that any thoughts before this year, focusing on where teams are, we truly need to throw that out the window. I think Colleague is a great example of that as well. And I think the field is way more even, at least to start off. And so Keselowski is at least showing up for me as well for over 5x value, just because I think he's way underpriced. And
that's a good point that I really didn't want to think about, but now you're making me. So what you're saying is, with the new car, and like we already said, if everything's back in the hands of the driver, then your equipment shouldn't even matter that much. So if Roush is years behind, which no one can be years behind, this is a brand new car, they're all learning things. Like you're saying, it's probably pretty even. And even if it's still like JGR has a little bit of an advantage or Hendrick has a little bit of an advantage, well, we're talking about that equipment advantage. It means a lot less than actual skill. And Kentucky and Darlington last in that race, who was it? It was Brad Keselowski scoring top 2 points. Remember, if you weren't here at the very beginning, Kentucky and Darlington in 2015, where they sudden flipped the switch, we're going to run low downforce this weekend. So everyone is, again, making that adjustment. And here's Brad Keselowski. Equipment probably doesn't matter. It just comes down to who's going to be able to all of a sudden deal with a breaking loose race car. And Chase Elliott said during practice, my car is tight, and I am still getting suddenly loose, which shouldn't happen. If you are tight, that means your front wheels are up. They're not getting grip. and your back is pressed down. But he's saying he's tight and it's pressed down and the back end is still coming out because of the bumps. That is freaking insane. And that takes real skill to deal with. And so a guy like Brad Keselowski, the veteran skilled drivers are probably the only, I don't think anyone else in the field's ever had to deal with that type of situation where you are tight and they can get loose. You have to have raced, like the Gen 4 car to have experienced.
And it's not even the car, like you're driving it gets loose. It's because of the bumps just upsetting the car randomly,
Yeah, and so they just lose grip in the back end, and then all of a sudden you're gone. None of these younger drivers, I mean, Larson's probably the only person who's experienced because he just raced everything. But most of the guys never experienced a car that does this type of stuff. And the older guys kind of have a feel for, well, I've done this before. I know what I'm doing. And 10 laps in practice is fine, but they probably have a decent idea. Yeah, the Keselowski play is very interesting, and no one's going to play Keselowski. No one's going to play Bowman. No one wants to play Reddick. Everyone wants to play these guys in the back. And an easy argument can be made that for all three of those guys that scored 60. I mean, it's not hard for Keselowski, Bowman, or Reddick to score 60 fantasy points. And that's pretty much the ceiling almost for Kurt Busch and Kevin Harvick and Ross Chastain. They're not going to lead laps more than likely. They're not going to run fast laps. You need them to get you place differential and finish, and we kind of have a good idea where their ceiling is. These guys up front can get there too, along with Kyle Larson scoring a bunch of points as well. And they're not being treated equally at all.
Especially, I like talking about this more because, like I said, I already made some lines last night, kind of covering the guys from the back in more of a insane race. So in my brain, I'm like, okay, I'm already covered on a race that's crazy. Now I can actually start focusing on plays that I are going to think are going to be under-owned. And so this entire time, I've just highlighted Keselowski. I need to get to him. Same thing with Reddick. You've talked me into him. Bowman, I like, just because I don't think people are going to go to Bowman at this point now. Is there anybody else in that top 10? Like right now, I haven't gotten to Kyle Busch. I don't have a lineup with him. That's not due to, if he goes to the back. I like Hamlin more than Kyle. At this point, I like Keselowski's upside. I like Bowman's upside. I like Reddick's upside more than Kyle. Is there I can't imagine playing Logano, in my opinion.
That's going to be one that I will probably have to explore after the show with that 3 hours leading up to. Will Logano be able to jump it? Will Logano be? I mean, he gets the broadcaster boost, which we used to see, which is completely narrative driven, superstition. But I don't know. But roll that back. Yeah, there's what? I don't know if you can't even read that. So we got Reddick, Bowman, BK.
Yep.
And then Larson, and then there's that other group of Busch, Truex, Hamlin. We're like, what do we do with those guys? And
so I already, like I said, I think you should have Hamlin in lines. You should have Truex in lines. I've covered that. So is there anybody else?
Kind of some core right there, and then from there you just fill them with either you want to go all the way to the back with two, or do you want to go one from the back, or one of the guys in the middle like a McDowell or a Stenhouse. My bigger question though is do I need Larson and Busch, Larson and Truex, Larson and Hamlin? Probably. And do I want to play all? I don't think I want to play Reddick, Bowman, and BK. I need to play one or two of those three. But that should be enough differentiation. Putting Reddick, Bowman, or Brett Keselowski in your lineup is going to really go in a different direction. And really, you're just hoping that they have a good race, which they're definitely capable of having a good race. I don't see why they can't. Obviously, you don't want them to wreck, but we're going to say that for everybody. If Reddick does what we think he can do, then he's optimal, regardless of what Kevin Harvick or those guys do in the back. If Bowman does what we think he's capable of, then he scores more points than those guys in the back. And you win that head-to-head, or you win that. Now, if they suck, and we just missed. And we should have just went Galaxy or just went simple and played guys in the back based on they're starting in the back.
Yeah, so like I completely agree with that. And like the guys that we've just talked about, like I did not realize how cheap Keselowski was until I was doing the show right now. But same thing with Bowman. Like I have Bowman projected for 7th. I don't think that's insane at all. I'm giving him 10 fast laps.
Well, if he won at this
I
racetrack
threw
the last time, he knows where the bumps are.
I threw 8 laps led at him. So I have Bowman projected for 51.5. You can even bump that down and take away his fast laps and laps led, and you'll still be at close to 45 points, which is value for him.
I'm going to dial him down because I'm pretty aggressive, but I still got him at 60 fantasy points. That's a ceiling projection. 60 for him. And the guys in the back, I'm not super aggressive with Ross Chastain. If he finishes, I don't think he's old. He's probably a 15th place car for Trackhouse. But Wallace, if he finishes, he's 15th place car at best. I don't think he's going to get there. I mean, he ran 3 laps and spun out because he didn't know what he was doing. And if you watch that spin, he didn't know what he was doing. He overdrove into turn 1, and then he's like, oh, well, just side force. You overdrove it, and then you corrected, and you wrecked. You freaking wrecked. Some people wrecked on Saturday. Some people didn't. If you wrecked on Saturday, probably going to wreck on Sunday. I mean, I don't know. Like, 3 laps, he wrecked once. So if you run 200 laps, does that mean he's going to wreck 70 times? I don't like the odds. Kurt Busch could be fine. I worry about that equipment, though. Maybe the 2311 stuff is fine, but
yeah, I know I kind of just took this. I didn't even answer the second part of this. So like the Keselowski play for me, even the Reddick play, like I think if Reddick is running good, he'll get those laps. But I'm not playing him technically for fast laps or laps led. I just want like an average day from these guys because they are starting farther back than what they should be starting at.
Yeah. And then for Kyle Larson's the obvious answer, I think, to if there's one person that's going to run away with it, it could easily be Kyle Larson. And there's not a lot of hog points to go. And if the second guy ends up being priced like Kyle Busch, who gets up the second most hog points, but just doesn't squeeze in the optimal, you're probably fine. And if Denny Hamlin, like it might work out that way, that you don't need Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin. But I think you probably still want to try to play him. That's where I'm really running into the challenge of who do I want to pair the most with Kyle Larson to lead laps? I think I'm probably leaning Hamlin if Busch is going to the back, and I'm probably leaning Hamlin anyway.
So that's what I did. That's the build that I got first and foremost. Even the optimizer, when I still had guys in the back in there, it wanted to put Hamlin, Larson, and then place differential plays.
I mean, he turned the fastest lap in practice. And I'm not usually crazy about a hot lap, but if it is a hot lap in a hot lap practice and to be the one guy who went the closest to the edge, that's pretty impressive. That's worth noting. I know the rest of his laps, he just kind of went out there, but I mean, I think that was what you look at his laps and it looks like he had 100% knew what his strategy was. He goes out and goes 173.4, brings it right back in, goes out and just kind of nurses it around and just like basically seems to have accomplished everything that was in his notebook and knew exactly what he was going to do and knew exactly what the plan was and executed it. And so now he's starting on the second row in practice. And I think he's starting the second row in practice because he was something like 0.001 behind in qualifying. But he's going to start in the second row on the outside. He's got a really good shot to get up there, take the lead. We go through all these caution laps. He just starts churning off the laps led. And we're probably going to have too many laps under caution, which that's another thing we haven't even talked about. That's going to downgrade, the possible hog points. If there's a bunch of cautions, in a race where there's few laps, that's going to chew up the fast lap potential, which I guess does hurt Reddick a little bit. But these guys, their salaries are just low enough that I don't think it hurts them that much. And they got place differential baked in too. I think I talked myself into Hamlin Larson.
I'm already there, so we're going down there.
Give me the picks.
Right, there you go, Hamlin and
pretty
Larson.
much went through where we are going.
And I listened to, I'm answering Ken's question here. I listened to Kyle Busch's thing after the interview. Like I said, him going to the back is, if that happens, it doesn't bother me. Second, when is Kyle Busch ever happy with his car? Like, I don't mean to use that argument, but Kyle Busch qualified third, and there's times where he'll finish races and he's like, "Man, this is a piece of shit car." Like,
I mean, just listen to the way he talks to his truck team.
Yeah,
he wins every time, and he's just sitting there yelling at him the whole time, and even in victory lane. Who wants to work for that guy?
He pays.
Bugle was probably so happy when Hendrick hired him.
Right, he didn't have to deal with him anymore, and I guess Joe Gibbs just puts up with that.
Wins races, man. What are you gonna do? I don't know. Now he's lost that golden M&M sponsorship. What is he gonna do?
Yeah.
Well, do you got any other picks questions? Kyle Busch says there's something bad wrong with his car after qualifying. Could be.
Mm-hmm.
That could also be, I don't know. Was he talking about this in practice? It was the, am I thinking of a different race? The engine issue that he had, something that he heard. Let me look. I think I got something on my notes. Busch worried about the engine. This was early in practice. If you go back and watch his run, he's talking to them about something not sounding right.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't put a lot of laps on. He ran how many laps in practice? He's a pretty decent run, actually. 15 laps. But he did mention like something sounding off to him.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta wait and see like what happens, what more information we get, and how spooked people get, because people are going to overreact to that one. And that sounds like a leverage play if there ever was one. And if it's an engine issue, just change the damn engine. Right?
It looks like they're working underneath the car yesterday after practice. This is also what makes me incredibly frustrated with it. I know I just complain.
Here we go. I'm sure you're going to rant about
even Pockris is like, I know Manny want official word on whether Kyle Busch is going to the rear. I know it impacts fantasy and bets, but it's 7 a.m. here in Cali, and we don't have an answer yet. How do we not have an answer? How do we not know? It doesn't have to
be during Bob Pockris gets there at 4 a.m. and does nothing all day. And he complains about having to be there for practice. He just wants to go and sit and do nothing. Jeff Gluck, who is a nice guy and does a great job at what he does, but his job is to write, human interest pieces about. I asked him what his favorite ice cream was, and he said he doesn't eat ice cream.
No, wow. You want 20 questions with Tyler Reddick.
I want to know about the engine. This is a sport. Let's talk about the sport. No, it's show business, baby. Yeah, I wish that, I wish NASCAR, like Last Car on the Brock. Last Car on the Brock. And these smaller Twitter accounts, these guys that are using their own money to go into the garages. They do great jobs, and they're doing it with their own money. They have no support. They're answering the questions. You want to know about the Xfinity starting parks, even though they don't exist, but the low-tier guys, those guys are doing yeoman's work, getting no support. They're completely ignored by NASCAR. And then you got the guys that are propped up just sitting in the freaking warehouse in the middle of the infield, staring at their computer.
Sweet.
It's so freaking stupid. It sucks. Reward the good reporters. Unfortunately, in the Cup Series, I don't think there are any of these grinders. There are for the Xfinity Series, but there's no one's going to be there to tell us about it. So, good luck waiting on that information.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll come out later. It's just, I wasn't that high on Kyle Busch to begin with, so if he goes to the rear, it doesn't affect me. But if I was on Kyle Busch and he went to the rear, I would still be on him because he showed me things that I enjoyed or like that pointed me towards him to look at. That's where I'm at.
Well, he does check the box of skill, but he is also, now he's got the engine issue or whatever it is, mechanical issue, and he also he's a wild man. and he almost wrecked several times in practice yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Which once we've seen him wreck though. It just depends on how he wrecks. We've seen him wreck a car and still win races, but him winning's not enough. He's got to lead laps at his price at his starting position. Yeah.
I would take Keselowski. I would take Reddick over Logano. And I don't like Blaney. I'm just not on Blaney today.
Yeah, Blaney's win was in the high downforce package, and I personally believe that is part of that. And that he's not going to be all that great. He also has a new crew chief, and Jonathan Hassler, who I don't think is a good crew chief. This is really their first race together.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how that goes. I'm probably not on Blaney. Someone asked about Cash. I rarely will say anything about Cash, but if I were playing Cash, I would just play guys in the back. I think that's what everyone's going to do. They're going to play. If I had to guess the Cash lineup, it's going to be all guys in the back and Kyle Larson.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's it, right?
Which is why.
Great. So now you've built the same lineup as everybody else in Cash. So then you're like, well, I got to be different than the other Cash lineup. So then you play guys in the middle.
Yeah.
But then
but then you're like, oh, this is too risky for Cash. Well, just play GPPs. I can't play Cash. It's just not fun.
I can understand Cash in a chalky race that we're going into. Like if this maybe at Las Vegas, I don't think Cash is Cash for the next 4 or 5 weeks with the way these cars are handling and with the low downforce and the possible wrecks. It's like playing Cash at Daytona. What are you doing? If you want to do it, fine. Just stack guys in the back and hope that your guys don't wreck, or if your guys wreck, that they lose you fewer points. And so that's the same thing, and that's what we're going to run into. So if you're playing, I think people play Cash for responsible returns and predictable returns, and it's safe. But there is nothing safe about this race whatsoever from where I stand. So my Cash advice would be, this is probably GPP week for a while.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I can't get on Austin Dillon. I got him for 38 points. Giving him 12th place. Giving him a few fast laps.
But he's a dirt tracker. He hasn't dirt raced really in like 10 years.
Yeah.
Until last year. Remember, they're all jumping in these random dirt race events that we were pulling data from. Jesus. We need a life. Do you remember that those weeks leading up to that dirt race in Bristol? All the random events that we were looking at. Like Brad Keselowski went out and bought a dirt car. Logano bought a dirt car and was racing down in Alabama, and we were following all these different rando events.
And then it's like, oh, Logano's won 3 modified races. Well, yeah, he's racing against scrubs with a $1 billion budget. Like, no shit, he's gonna win.
That's what Dillons were doing their entire life. Was they were just beating the hell out of people in North Carolina because they had freaking RCR dirt equipment. People were so glad when those guys got into the truck series. Like, thank God, get them out of here. This is not fair. Yeah, I don't mind. Dillon's probably pushing it a little too far for me, but. And I don't think you need to get that. Like just being in that range. We talked about last night with Chris Buescher being what I think he's in that same boat. Like I don't think he's a good play at all. But you want to get really different. And the argument for Buescher is hopefully he learned his lesson in practice. Maybe he's going to go out there and just play it safe and take it easy. And if he does that and survives the wrecks, maybe he squeezes in it. But going back to that, we think that this race is going to be the ultimate wreck fest for Buescher to work.
An endurance race.
And I don't think it's what it is. That bad. I don't think it's going to be that bad. I mean, I'll watch him hit. Because this is not a race I think that suits his style by any means.
Okay, so this is where my little highlighted list is at. I got Keselowski, Reddick, Bowman, Buescher, Custer, Briscoe. I think that's where I want to go to get different. I've already got Stenhouse. I already like Bell. I already got lineups with McDowell. This is where I'm at, like when I'm knee deep in lineups, covering bases that I probably should cover.
Focused-ish
at this point.
I think that's kind of Bell. We didn't talk about that. I don't know. I got to put Bell back on my list.
I got a ton. I got I think Bell's my highest.
Now,
on
Bell's not a
driver.
wall guy. Someone asked about walls. Larson and Reddick clearly 1 and 2. Who would be number 3 for you about getting up and just getting onto the wall? Bell does not like that. He is a dirt racer, but we've heard before that he is not a guy that really likes doing that. He'd been vocal about that, like when he didn't do it at Homestead. What's wrong with you? I don't like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Who would be number 3 for you when you talk about riding up there, rim riding? Is there even a 3? Like the fact that
I mean, it's tied between a lot of people. There's not like a dominant third. In my brain, I want to put Truex.
Yeah, true. That's what I was going to say. Truex can do it.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to. You know who absolutely loathes getting on the wall? Who's going to be extremely popular today?
Who's that?
Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick hates running the top.
History, yeah.
He loves running the bottom, and he's fast at running the bottom. But, man, running the bottom today is incredibly dangerous, as he learned yesterday in his one freaking lap. This does not set up well. Like, there are so many things stacked against Kevin Harvick that people don't want to recognize or realize.
Mm-hmm.
They have struggled. He is getting old. Rodney Childers, I already mentioned in the previous years, they had lost crew members. And now you've got a racetrack where the bottom may not be the best way around it. Mm-hmm. And so Harvick's going to be forced against his will to run the top and then expect him to run well there. I am fine not having very much Harvick.
I'm
rooting for Harvick this year. I believe at Las Vegas next week, we could definitely see him come back to life. But, man, maybe this is just 1 week too early to rush in on Harvick. Maybe people rush in on Harvick this week, they get burned, and then next week I go with Harvick and he comes to life. Because we did see him be awesome in 2018 in a low downforce package. But, man, if you got to run up near the wall, I don't know about Harvick. Didn't he have a strong Fontana race recently at 2016? He had how many points did he get in that?
He won a lot. Or I think he led
2016 first low down. Fuck. So the first low downforce race is 2016 at Fontana. And he finishes second and scores 60 hog points. That's fast laps and laps led combined. 100 fantasy points. You know who else ran well in that race? Ricky Spinhouse.
It finished 5th. Yeah.
Now he finished better than where he ran, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to see some of that. That was the trend before, where drivers finish a lot better than their average running position. And that could be twofold in this race. Late race caution, but B, some of these guys are going to spend time in the back because they spun out. They're going to, a guy's going to be scored in 32nd place because they're 2 laps down. Then they start getting the waiver rounds, and once they get back on the lead lap, they're going to look like a 15th place car. They're going to be a 15th place car the entire race, but they're trapped 2 laps down, so they're getting scored in 30th, so their average running position looks a lot worse than where they are. I don't know. Skill. I'm just going with the guys I like.
I do too. I'm going to. I mean, and we talked about it last night. I guess we haven't talked about it here. When they ran Nashville last year,
Stenhouse
showed up. Yeah.
Now, people are going to say, but Ross Chastain. You got to watch that race again. Ross Chastain had a tire advantage at the end of the race. He got off sequence pitting, and that's why he got that. He had a good car that day, but it is inflated by his pitting and getting fresh tires when everyone else was stretching. Everyone else was stretching fuel, so they were going slower. And B, he had fresher tires, and so Chastain finishes second. But that would not have happened. So I hope no one's even looking at Nashville. I'm probably the only crazy person that's looking at that. So whatever. Watch too many races.
You know who I feel like I want to be overweight on in terms of the guys in the back is Haley at this point. Because I
just don't know if he's got the skill.
I trust Haley more than Chastain. He's cheaper than Bubba with very similar upside.
I don't want either one of them. I don't want any of those guys.
Say that again?
I don't want any of those guys. I don't want Chastain. I don't want Wallace. I don't want Haley. Don't want him.
Okay.
Maybe I go with Haley because he is the cheapest. Maybe he plays it the safest. Maybe he executes. But I think it's marginal. His rec rate compared to Bubba, it's going to be better. he'll avoid wrecks or he'll wreck at a lower clip, but he's still pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt's probably the safest, but you gotta pay for Kurt, and I don't know about the equipment.
Well, the reason I say that
Almirola is probably who I would want to try to go to the most. He was good in low downforce, high horsepower last season. New crew chief, that's not very good, not a lot of experience, but for my money, I'm going Almirola in the back.
Okay.
And I got to get out of here. Favorite member of the NWO? 6, man. There was 1, 2, 3 Kid or X-Pac. I don't really like X-Pac. I was much more of a 6 guy. Haley, dirt track guy, right? I don't know. I know he's a short track guy. He's short tracking in Indiana. I thought that was asphalt racing, though.
Him and All Guy run a lot of modified races in Florida during the off season. They do that like every year.
All right, I got to go to work. Thanks for having me on. Guys, go to patreon.com/BrandonCruzDFS. Please consider supporting. As always, you probably want to wait. If you're signing up now, wait 2 days. Don't sign up now.
Yeah.
Sign up on March 1st.
And
I'm not going to take your money for 36 hours.
Yeah.
So in 2 days, please consider going to patreon.com/BrandonCruzDFS and signing up. All right. I'm going to jump out. You wrap them up and just make sure you give them the picks.
Of course.
Give them the damn picks.
The picks.
Oh, I didn't want to stop. I wanted to exit.
Here, I'll get you. There you go. But yeah, so I guess here's the picks, the player pool at least, and it's a bit expanded from my player pool that I did last night. But I like Hamlin. I'm going to use like here because it's in the pool. It'll be Hamlin, Keselowski, Reddick, Truex, Larson, Bowman, Stenhouse, Bell, Buescher, Custer, McDowell, Briscoe, LaJoy, Almirola, Harvick, Wallace, Haley, and Busch. I think that's the pool I'm going to work with. I think I can cover a lot. Part of me wants to play Byron. But I don't see it, man. I don't see it. Talk about guys who don't have experience running a car with no downforce. It's not Byron. The poor bastard just ran everything with downforce. Trucks are still to the ground. Xfinity was still to the ground during the time that he was in it. You know, even his runs at Fontana now in the Cup Series have not been good. So I feel pretty confident not even bothering to deal with Byron. And I think that's about where we're at. We got any questions or anything? That's funny. I'm not playing Suarez. Can't do Suarez. That's just not for me. I think that's too crazy, to be honest. Especially when you start looking at projections for everyone. You know, you need to have Suarez have a tremendous day to score well. Like I am for 32 points right now. I'm projecting Suarez for a 13th place finish. That's 32 points. That is not going to get it done. That is not going to get it done, despite the fact that he hits 5x value and because I was live for about 3 hours last night goofing around with this stuff, and I had 22, somewhere between 22 and 26 guys projected for over 5x value in this race. And so value really doesn't even matter. It just depends on shoving in as many guys on there. Man, Super Draft is such bad contests. I do post a favorite play from Super Draft on the PDF, and I don't think enough people really play it for it to really matter. What is it, a $16 entry a day with 150? Like that sucks. The payout's terrible, and that will fill. But for the captain option, I do like Eric Almirola on Super Draft. Oh shit, I gotta make FanDuel lines as well. I totally forgot about that. FanDuel, I'm stacking from the back. Their chasing place differential player pull starts at Stenhouse. It includes the guys I just mentioned, starting from Stenhouse down. I'm not chasing lap leaders, and maybe I will. Maybe I'll play Larson a bit on FanDuel, but yeah, that's really about it. Now, this is a good question. I do like this. I'll just answer with projections. I got Briscoe for 36. I got Haley for 34.45. So I'm giving Haley a fast lap. I do have McDowell. I like McDowell. I think he's too cheap. I don't think people are going to play him. I like McDowell. I like Custer, McDowell, Corey LaJoy, all in that range, man. The 5K range is pretty attractive here, and certainly to get different. Stenhouse 6,200. Don't think anybody's going to play Stenhouse. I like Stenhouse a lot. More and more, I'm going around to Stenhouse. And if he wrecks, I think everybody in this race has a 50% chance to wreck. Stenhouse is always at 50% chance. So if everybody's there, I think that makes Stenhouse more attractive. I don't think he's as insane as he usually looks. I do appreciate everybody tuning in early in the morning. I'm probably going to end it here, but I do appreciate you guys watching. 120 people watching. I do appreciate that. I do appreciate the likes and subscribers and everything that we've been getting. Like I said, I don't normally push for that stuff, but it's just nice to see that's always increasing. So thank you guys for supporting us. Thank you for supporting me, supporting Pearce. And like we said, if you would like to support us in more detail, get access to Pearce's sheets, get access to his projections as well, my projections. So it's really 2 for 1 here. You can join the Patreon on the 1st for $40 and support us, man. We split that right down the middle. And I think we're just over 50 people on Patreon now. I'll say thank you to all of them. Let me look real quick. We're at 59 people on Patreon. That's awesome. That's fantastic. I couldn't be any happier. We've right off the bat, we hit anything that we really wanted to. And so at this point, we're just happy to have people supporting us. Thank you for tuning in and everything like that. Yes. Yeah, thank you for bringing this up. The transaxle, because I was curious what they were looking for in the back of these cars are hunks of junk, man. I've already ran about that enough. But these cars were not ready. But anyway, yeah. So you guys enjoy the rest of your morning, and I'll talk to you guys later. So see you next week for Vegas. If anybody still has cars left, we'll be talking Vegas.